Hi there, this is Emma from the Lebanon Public Library coming to you with another edition of Up Storytime. This week's theme very much befits our slightly foggy and spooky morning because it is cozy mysteries. So my offering for this week's Up Storytime is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. This is a really exciting new mystery out on our adult fiction shelf. And you might recognize Richard Osman's name. He is a frequent collaborator on BBC shows. You'll often see him on chat shows and quiz shows. And now he's an author. So let me read you a little bit about this, and then we'll start in with our story time session. In a peaceful retirement village, 4 unlikely friends meet weekly in the jigsaw room to discuss unsolved crimes. Together, they call themselves the Thursday Murder Club. When a local developer is found dead, the Thursday Murder Club suddenly finds themselves in the middle of their very first live case. They may be septuagenarians, but they're cleverer than most. So you can tell that this is already going to be a fun, interesting mystery with a unique set of characters. So I'm going to read you the first couple of pages to just give you an idea of what this book feels like, and hopefully we'll have a couple of recommendations. Well, let's start with Elizabeth, shall we? And see where that gets us. I knew who she was, of course. Everyone here knows Elizabeth. She has one of the 3-bedroom flats in Larkin Court. It's the one on the corner with the decking. Also, I was once on a quiz team with Stephen, who was, for a number of reasons, Elizabeth's 3rd husband. I was at lunch. This is 2 or 3 months ago, and it must have been a Monday because we were having shepherd's pie. Elizabeth said that she could see I was eating, but she wanted me to ask a question about knife wounds if that wasn't inconvenient. I said, not at all. Of course, please. Or words to that effect. I won't always remember everything exactly. I might as well tell you that now. So she opened a manila folder, and I saw some typed sheets on the edges of what looked like old photographs. Then she was straight into it. Elizabeth asked me to imagine that a girl had been stabbed with a knife. I asked what sort of knife she had been stabbed with, and Elizabeth said it was probably just a normal kitchen knife. John Lewis or some such. She didn't say that, but that's what I pictured. Then she asked me to imagine this girl had been stabbed 3 or 4 times just under the breastbone. In and out, very nasty, but without severing the artery. She was fairly quiet about the whole thing because people were eating, and she does have some boundaries. So there I was, imagining stab wounds, and Elizabeth asked me how long it would take for the girl to bleed to death. By the way, I realize I should have mentioned to you that I was a nurse for many years. Otherwise, none of this will make sense to you. Elizabeth would have known that from somewhere because Elizabeth knows everything. Anyway, that's why she was asking me. You must have wondered what I was on about. I will get the hang of writing this, I promise. I remember dabbing at my mouth before I answered, like you see on television sometimes. It makes you look clever. Try it. I asked what the girl had weighed. Elizabeth found the information in her folder, followed her finger, and read out that the girl had been 46 kilos, which threw us both because neither of us were sure what 46 kilos was in real money. In my head, I was thinking it must be about 23 stone. 2 to 1 of us, my thinking. Even as I thought that, though, I suspected I was getting mixed up with the inches and the centimeters. Elizabeth let me know that the girl definitely wasn't 23 stone, as she had a picture of the corpse in the folder. She tapped the folder at me and then turned her attention to the back of the room and asked, will somebody find out from Bernard what 46 kilos is? Bernard always sits by himself at one of the small tables near the patio. Table 8. You don't need to know that, but I'll tell you a bit about Bernard. Bernard Carter was kind to me when I first arrived at Cooper's Chase. He brought me clematis cutting and explained the recycling timetable. They have 4 different colored bins here. 4! Thanks to Bernard, I know that the green bin is for glass and the blue bin is for cardboard and paper. As for the red and black, though, your guess is still as good as mine. I've seen all sorts as I've wandered about. Someone once put a fax machine in. Bernard had been a professor, something in science, and had worked all around the world, including going to Dubai before anyone had even heard of it. True to form, he was wearing a suit and tie to lunch, but was nonetheless reading the Daily Express. Mary from Ruskin Court was at the next table, and she got his attention and asked how much 46 kilo was when it was at home. Bernard nodded and called over to Elizabeth. 7 stone 3 and a bit. And that's Bernard for you. And Elizabeth thanked him and said it sounded about right, and Bernard returned to his crossword, and I looked up centimeters and inches afterwards just to see if I was right about that. Elizabeth went back to her question. How long would the girl who was stabbed with the kitchen knife have to live? I guessed that unattended she would probably die in about 45 minutes. Well, quite, Joyce, she said. And then she had another question. What if the girl had had medical assistance? Not a doctor, but someone who could patch up a wound. Someone who'd been in the army, perhaps. Someone like that. I'd seen a lot of stab wounds in my time. My job wasn't all sprained ankles. So I said, well, then she wouldn't have died at all. Which she wouldn't. It wouldn't have been fun for her, but it would have been fairly easy to patch up. Elizabeth was nodding away and said that was precisely what she had told Ibrahim, although I didn't know Ibrahim at the time. As I say, this was a couple of months ago. It hadn't seemed at all right to Elizabeth, and her view was that the boyfriend had killed her. I know this is still often the case. You read all about it. I think before I moved in, I might have found this whole conversation a bit unusual, but it is par for the course once you get to know everyone here. Last week, I met a man who invented mint chocolate chip ice cream, or so he tells it. I don't really have any way of checking. I was glad to have helped Elizabeth in my small way, so I decided I might ask a favor. I asked if there was any way that I could just take a look at the picture of the corpse, just out of professional interest. Elizabeth beamed, the way that people around here beam when you ask to look at the pictures of their grandchildren graduating. She slipped the letter-sized photocopy out of the folder, laid it face down in front of me, and told me to keep it. They all had copies. I told her that was very kind of her, and she said not at all, but she wondered if she could ask me one final question. Of course, I said. And then she said, are you ever free on Thursdays? And that, believe it or not, was the first I heard of Thursdays. So that is just the introductory bit from the Thursday Murder Club. Now you know some of the characters, you know a little bit of the pace of the story, so I really recommend diving in and seeing what these septuagenarians can do. If you're interested in mysteries, but this one isn't turning it for you, I have a couple to recommend. First of all, the queen of the cozy mystery, which is a genre of mystery that's very quaint, often solved by non-professional detectives. They are generally much more bloodless than traditional mysteries. Obviously, Agatha Christie is the best of the best, and we have a lot of her books here in the library. I also recommend Alexander McCall Smith. If you haven't started the Talented Mr. Varg series, this is kind of his satire of the Nordic noir detective genre. Another great option, M.C. Beaton, who writes British mysteries set in quaint villages. My favorite are the Agatha Raisin novels. If you're looking for something else, you could also do Laura Childs, who writes tea shop mysteries. Great if you want a little refinement to your murder. And if you're looking for something a little harder, a little out of the cozy realm and more into more detective fiction, Louise Penny is always a favorite. Her Inspector Gamache books are page turners that our readers just cannot get enough of. And Anne Cleves is another favorite. She writes a lot of detective murders, a lot of English murder mysteries that are a little bit more dark and mysterious. So that is our grown-up story time. If you want to check out any of these books, you can come on into the library, or you can give us a call and we'll put some on hold for you. You can always get recommendations from the staff. We are happy to chat about books, and there are many mystery lovers among our ranks. So I hope you've had a good day, and I'll see you all next month for adult story time. Thank you. Bye-bye.